This is 2024's Long Legs. Warning, spoilers ahead. The film begins with a young girl drawing in a room. She notices a car pulling up to her house and heads downstairs to investigate. However, it's empty. There's no driver. Suddenly, she hears a noise behind her. Turning around, she sees a pale, creepy man appear out of nowhere. His movements are unnerving, and his voice is even worse. All he says is that he wore his long legs that day and then congratulates her on her birthday. Because that's not nightmare fuel at all, right? The story shifts to a briefing where young Agent Lee Harker and several detectives are listening to their boss discuss a thief they need to catch. When Harker and her partner arrive at a neighborhood to interview locals, she becomes fixated on a particular house. While her partner moves from one house to the next, Harker is convinced the person they're looking for is inside. Her partner dismisses her suspicions, telling her to relax, but goes to check the house himself. When someone opens the door, her partner is immediately shot in the forehead. Terrified, Harker rushes into the house and heads upstairs. There, she finds the killer calmly sitting on a bed, as if he were expecting her, waiting to be handcuffed. Honestly, who waits for their own arrest? The guy is either cocky or completely unhinged. In the next scene, Harker is shown taking a psychological test based on some associations. She completely misinterprets the test's purpose, but let's face it, she's had a rough day. Later, she's assigned to a much more mysterious case, working with two experienced agents, Carter and his partner Browning. Carter tells her about a serial killer who recently murdered an entire family. This killer, known as Longlegs, has been active for 30 years and has killed 10 families so far. He leaves strange symbols behind at each crime scene, and there's one chilling connection. Every family has a daughter born on the 14th of a month. Carter casually brings up Harker's seemingly sharp intuition, but she brushes it off as something that happens sometimes. Honestly, this whole Longlegs guy is already sounding like a walking, talking horror story. Who names themselves after creepy appendages? Later that night, Harker immerses herself in the case files, poring over the evidence throughout the evening. Among the materials, she finds a 911 recording from a man reporting that his daughter isn't really his daughter. The man cryptically adds that night is the best time to do it. Soon after, Carter finds Harker surrounded by piles of documents and suggests they go out for a drink. Harker agrees, and in the restaurant explains her theory. In every case, the family members were killed using items from their own home, making it seem like the father snapped and murdered everyone. However, she believes the killer somehow manipulates his victims into committing these crimes. Carter, being the classic guy who doesn't know his limits, drinks too much, leaving Harker to drive him home. As a thank you, Carter invites Harker to meet his family, his wife Anna and their daughter Ruby. Ruby is full of curiosity and asks Harker what it's like being a woman in the FBI. Before the conversation gets too deep, Anna interrupts, telling Ruby it's time for bed. Before leaving, Ruby invites Harker to her birthday party. Of course, because attending a child's birthday party is exactly what you want to do when investigating a serial killer who targets girls born on the 14th. What could possibly go wrong? When Harker gets home, she hears a noise outside, but doesn't think much of it. She makes dinner and calls her mother Ruth. Unexpectedly, there's a knock at the door. Harker grabs her gun and looks through the window, spotting a shadowy silhouette. But when she steps outside, there's no one there. When she goes back inside, however, she finds a letter waiting for her. The note instructs her not to open it until January 14th, her birthday. Naturally, she ignores the warning and opens it. Inside, she finds an encoded message from Longlegs. Using the materials she's gathered, she deciphers it. The message warns her not to tell anyone how she cracked it or her mother will die. Yep, because every birthday should come with a side of psychological blackmail. The next morning, Harker is called to work on a new case. Another family has been found dead. Carter shows her a message from the killer saying they were too late. When Carter asks how she managed to decode it, Harker deflects, claiming it was thanks to the evidence she collected earlier. They head to examine the bodies, but due to being killed a month ago, the remains are in poor condition. Later that evening, Harker visits the library to dig deeper into Longlegs. She maps out the dates of the murders and discovers a pattern. The killer always strikes on the 14th or within a few days of it. Armed with this new insight, she shares her findings with Carter. Together, they plan to visit a farm where a family was killed 8 years ago. The only survivor, a girl named Carrie Ann, was institutionalized in a mental hospital. That night, they arrive at the farm and conduct a thorough search of the house. Upstairs, they stumble upon an intricately crafted doll that looks eerily like a real girl. During their examination, they discover a metal ball hidden inside the doll's head. The ball produces a strange sound when exposed to electricity. Suddenly, Harker starts experiencing a vision of Longlegs speaking to a young Carrie Ann. At this point, after experiencing all of this, Harker might want to rethink her life choices. Or at least start charging overtime. In the morning, Lee and Carter arrive at the mental hospital. The doctor informs them that Carrie Ann woke up from her 8-year stupor just 2 days ago, the day before a man claiming to be Lee Harker visited her. The implications are chilling. Perhaps it's the infamous Longlegs. Meanwhile, in a parallel scene, we see a pale, unsettling man trying to intimidate a girl in a shop, creepily asking for her birthday. Seriously, buddy, if you want to be less suspicious, maybe don't stalk people while buying milk. Lee interrogates Carrie Ann, trying to find out who visited her. Carrie reveals that she has been waiting for her friend from another world, the being in whose name the killer is committing these atrocities. She claims that she's willing to do anything he asks, even throw herself out of a window. Carrie also recounts horrifying memories of her father, who murdered her mother. Back at the office, Carter and Harker discuss the bizarre case. Harker mentions the doll as a potential key to unraveling the mystery. Carter becomes curious and raises an important question. How does the maniac know Lee's name? The men tell that in 1974, her mother called the police on January 13th, reporting a tall, pale man in their house. However, Lee herself has no memory of that event. Carter advises her to visit her mother and find out what really happened that day. Lee arrives at her mother Ruth's house, finding it cluttered with medications and a general mess that reflects her mother's strange behavior. While cooking, Lee hears noises behind a strange door and tries to open it, but Ruth interrupts her by going downstairs. When Lee asks about her 9th birthday, Ruth says she doesn't remember much, but suggests Lee look in her old room for something useful. Upstairs, Lee finds a photo of Longlegs in a box of her childhood belongings. A flashback reveals the terrifying moment when the maniac came to see Lee as a child while her mother tried to drive him away. The killer ominously told Ruth that he would return whenever he wanted. With this new information, Lee rushes to Carter and shows him the photo, adamant about arresting the man. Lee's mother tells her to look in her childhood room for something useful, but instead of, a diary or a helpful clue, she finds a creepy photo of the maniac. Like, who's keeping that in a box of childhood memories? Later, we see the pale Longlegs standing on the road with a suitcase, waiting for the cops to arrest him. During his interrogation, he reveals his real name, Dale Ferdinand Cobble. In true nightmare-inducing fashion, he sings happy birthday for an excruciating 25 minutes. Carter orders everyone to leave the room except Harker and Browning. Browning informs them that they've found satanic handwriting among his belongings. Harker suggests the killer isn't working alone, but has a partner helping him gain access to victims' homes. When Lee speaks to Dale, he eerily reveals he knows her personal details, such as when she started her career, claiming he laughed about it with a mysterious she. When Lee presses him about his partner, the killer cryptically replies that it's Mr. Downstairs and advises her to ask her mother about him. As Lee grows increasingly confused, Cobble declares that his dirty work is done and he will end up in the underworld. Moments later, he slams his head repeatedly against the table, killing himself. Carter, enraged, blames Lee for the suspect's death. To make matters worse, he informs her that Carrie Ann jumped to her death from the roof. Later, Lee and Browning head to her mother's house to gather more answers. While searching the house, Ruth suddenly shoots Browning in the head. Lee, hearing the gunshot, rushes outside to find her mother holding the gun and aiming it at a doll. Ruth declares that Longlegs is now free, and so is Lee. Ruth then shoots the doll and the metal ball inside, which causes Lee to collapse. At this point, I think we all agree Ruth's parenting methods leave something to be desired. As Lee lies on the ground, she listens to her mother telling a story. Ruth recounts how a doll maker once came to their home planning to kill their family. To save herself and Lee, Ruth made a deal with the devil, promising to help him in return. Her role was simple but sinister. She would visit strangers' homes disguised as a nun, delivering a doll as a gift from the church. The doll would then possess the father, driving him to kill his family before taking his own life. Ruth's only job was to watch and ensure the plan succeeded. This whole story is so dark and twisted that even the devil himself might be impressed by the creativity. When Lee regains consciousness, she hears a phone ringing. The devil himself, mockingly reminding her that she's late for Ruby's birthday party. Panicking, Lee rushes to Carter's house, but she's too late. Ruth has already arrived, bringing the cursed doll that takes control of Carter's mind. Under its influence, Carter leads his wife to the kitchen, intending to kill her. Meanwhile, Ruth explains to Lee that if she doesn't kill others, Lee will die. As Carter returns, now ready to take his daughter Ruby's life, Lee shoots him and her mother in a desperate attempt to stop the carnage. But when Lee tries to destroy the doll to end the nightmare once and for all, she discovers her gun is out of bullets. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.